Hello, I'm Sora Luxon, and this is Tarot card 8 of Swords. Had of Vav is the prisoner or prison card, a clear visual message of restrictions, narrowness, emotional constriction, smallness, like in being petty, a smallness of character. Jupiter in Gemini from the 1st to 10th degree shows a subjugated individual being dominated, bound, sensory data withheld, deprived, encircled by the blades which have themselves become a fence of caging metal bars. The ground is uneven and uncomfortable. This isn't some place a prisoner would choose to be held. Shifting sands or a bothersome marsh where firm footing can't be found. Respite or rescue seems impossibly far in the distance. Or even worse, that could be where the imprisoners come from, so even further hopelessness upon arrival. A vague gray outline of normal structure and principles. The air is ash, and as in all of the eights, we are advised of Hod's solitary inclinations. Whether this scene ends well or ill, it will be a path this figure walks alone and will correspond to little outside of itself. Feelings of isolation, confusion, helplessness, injustice all ride the winds here, whistling around what looks to be a powerless victim. Often with the Eight of Swords, we are advised of being too focused on the minutiae rather than the larger, more important qualities or framework that's all around us. For instance, this bound individual displays captivity, lack of sight. Blades are sunk into the wet earth rather than drawn in defense, protection, or battle for freedom. All seems lost here. And yet, the figure is still alive. That is a grace and a blessing. No one is actually interfering with them within this scene, within this moment. That too is a boon. And notice how, although they do not have their vision or hands to use, they can still breathe, hear, taste the air, feel the wind on their skin, listen to everything around them. So their captivity and restrictions are not nearly as great as they appear to be at first glance. When we focus on the small things, narrow our perspective, pay far too much attention to minor details, create a focus only of what we feel is confronting, challenging, or harming us, we do so at the expense of the bigger picture, at the cost of larger principles, comprehensions, and possibly far more important points and matters that are going on, such as what our reality actually is, rather than just what we personally think it to be inside of a bad moment. Giving the smallest things too much weight is a type of malice. It traps us and leads us to trap others unjustly as well. It's a blindness to truth that creates a self-imposed prison where new perspectives become very, very necessary if suffering is ever going to cease. Notice too how despite all of the supposed pain this prisoner is going through, the prisoner's feet seem ethereally light, almost as if they don't even touch the ground. That only spot of green that's depicted right below where they stand. Where they stand seems to be the only place of vitality within the card. They seem to almost hover or float. This is a person of patience, someone who is using their time even while trapped wisely. That's what's actually going on. Meditating or studying and actually showing how easy it is for them to do so, no matter what obstacles are presented. This is the deeper, more hidden context, the occult story of the card, of the Eight of Swords, that there is this beautiful balance depicted within Had of Vav for those who have the eyes to see it. Whereas the physical, exterior, material self and all of its burdens, constrictions, become greater, the figure within them only becomes lighter and internally freer. At least that possibility is very real. For every ill visited on the prisoner, their jailer has a counterbalancing sense of beneficial control. For every ease the prisoner embodies, no matter what their circumstance, say spiritually, the greater the counterbalancing sense of disorder for their captor. Sometimes with the Eight of Swords, this is simply a balance and counterweight message that we're being given. A person who is as happy and freely able to accept and enjoy gifts as they are to give them. Someone who likes both giving resources and receiving them in equal measure with no specific aversion or obsession with either action. But here, in the Eight of Swords upright, likely you've given up your power. You aren't behind the wheel. You're being passive. You're not in the driver's seat of your own life. And that isn't resulting in good things for you. Possibly you've relinquished responsibility for your own journey. Feeling trapped or being entirely passive doesn't engender a lot of growth or evolution. So what to do? Happily, you can realize that this captivity, this trap you've fallen into, is of your own making. And since it's of your own making, you can also unmake it. You created this perspective of your conditions. So create a different perspective. Allow yourself a different scene. Stop giving up and learn to see past the very limited perspective of being a captive that you've placed yourself under. You've created that condition. So remove it. Remove the blindfold and apply new vision, a new perspective, a new approach to your environment, a new approach to your conditions, future actions. Rather than remaining passively inert, you do have a great and worthy internal power. It's what's allowing you to still remain strongly standing upright, which you failed to notice. Notice your power and use it to define new possibilities. Reversed. In the Eight of Swords reversed, all of those lovely hidden balances are reversed as well. So rather than equal fondness for, say, taking and giving, now there's a real imbalance being shown. Too much fanatical or obsessive need to be generous, too much generosity, or too much greed and selfishness, an unhealthy swing towards one pole or the other, but no matter which side of that pendulum the imbalance is there, and it's sharp, acutely sharp, and no genuine sense of actual feeling or affection persists in either realm. Sometimes a cleverness of use is also being shown in the Eight of Swords reversed, where an individual clearly can cleverly use others, have an admiration and appreciation for some good quality, say like wisdom, but rather than seeking it out and valuing it authentically or well, applying it well, that great and powerful quality, rather than doing that, it gets applied in a petty way or to petty things, small things, things that don't really last or matter in the larger scheme. So applying wisdom to unworthy objects, unworthy people, unworthy projects or designs. In the Eight of Swords upright, you weren't really a prisoner. So in the Eight of Swords reversed, you aren't really free of your limiting self-captivity. I see a lot of readers, generally people who haven't actually been trained in the occult. They'll go online or hear from some other tarot reader that the Eight of Swords reversed means you're no longer a prisoner. It doesn't actually mean you're a prisoner to begin with upright. So now it doesn't mean that you're free. What's being shown is that you may have material or physical constraints lifted, yes. You may have some anxieties lessen, or new opportunities that you wanted may make themselves known and achievable here. But there will be a continued struggle. There will be a subversive, deep, well-buried fear or imbalance. And that is going to keep the authentic truth of things clouded from you, removed from you. So what to do? With the Eight of Swords reversed, address your real fears, your real anxieties. Because now that you have learned to see all the possibilities available to you, or now that they've become available, it would be wonderful if you could act on them in a whole and fulfilling way, rather than just grasping at the outer shell of things, the brittle surface that's being offered. If hopelessness that no one is coming to save the day is threatening to overwhelm you, remember that someone is coming to save you. You are. Stop straining to hear the hero in the distance. You're already standing there. You are the hero who arrives to free you from your captivity. So recognize that and acknowledge your power. Only you are coming to save you. Don't give in to fear and hopelessness. You and only you can change things for you. If you recognize that, it's going to happen. The Lord of shortened force gives us the opportunity to see beyond its limitations in its upright pull, and with awareness can be undone in its reversal pull. If you allow yourself to realize you are a force unto yourself and can apply that power, even if it seems you don't have it or can't apply it, you can. Until next time.